The Chronology of Innocence is my translation of Uskuldens Chronologie by Sofie Kragh-Müller, a slim, post-apocalyptic, experimental novel that came out here in Denmark a year ago. The novel begins at the end of the world. The last human being has just arrived in the last city, and a rather opinionated hare has decided to explain a few things. I'll be reading the first 2 chapters of part 1, ending with the last man discovering a copy of Hopscotch, the novel by Julio Cortázar. Part 1, Chapter 1. Time has passed. I hereby bid you a warm welcome to the finale. A happy time, a merciful time in which humanity can finally rest in peace. I myself have left my place in heaven and earth, in thicket and bush, and have moved in with the last human being, that I might console him straight unto death. So I settle into this armchair, placing a blanket across my folded paws while I gnaw a carrot and ruminate on humanity's deeds until the present. Let me recite some facts. Of the 709 descendants of Pumselsweet, 196 were born outside of marriage, 142 had to be supported by the public purse, 64 were mentally disabled, 174 were prostitutes, and 77 were criminals, convicted, including 12 murderers. If each of these 709 descendants had 709 descendants, that would make another 5,681 descendants who don't know which hand to eat with. From this, we can conclude that humanity is comprised chiefly of idiots and reprobates. The dead flesh rots in the ground. The living bodies are thrown over a cliff. There are bullet holes through both sides of numerous skulls, and the unborn fetuses curl up, unwilling to relinquish the earth. On the seafloor, the bones of those cast into the ocean are rocking. Nobody knows who is supposed to weep and who to laugh. Thus we have reached the point where time eats its own tail. Dolage, Olage, alles bis Zugen kommen. Everything is everything. All things repeat. Is it so surprising that I have to save humanity from itself? I, the Great Hare, the comforting and merciful hare? Is it any wonder that I must stop this clumsy, repetitive drive to which you humans have subjected yourselves? I glance over at the bed, where the last person lies staring up at the ceiling and asks, "Don't we just need a new and better place?" No, wait. From the top. If we're going to nullify this entire evolutionary tragedy that the human race represents, we must remember to ask the right question. So answer me this. What's the difference between a donkey and a person? The donkey longs for wide open spaces, you say. The human eats meat. Poor critter. Let me inform you of the facts. The donkey came first. And because you answered incorrectly, you must all be shot. 1, 2, 3, bang! What a relief. Such a beautiful thing. In this dehumanized world, everything recovers its innocence. Time breathes. The mare stands back up on its 4 hooves and whinnies, liberated. The foal takes 2 bounds forward. Such joy seizes the twilight, seizes those who are at rest. The songs from the trees, the blackest loam, here it is. The scent like a membrane that mantles the globe, a celebration, and the bone's lovely sandbox, games, overturned cars, and it starts again from square one. What glee! What clear possibility! Straight into death, into life. Yet though you are dead, you look worried, yes? You want to try to straighten time out with violence and force instead? Avoid the inevitable? Let's iron it out, you say, till it's nice and even. But see, that which was wrinkled is now completely smooth. Progress, long lived. Boom! The truth is, time is a tree, and you have all climbed up its branches at random, till you've reached the farthest branch, where you sit and bounce until it throws you off, like a leaf in a storm. You have handed your dreams to the king, the warrior, the conqueror, and the man who invented the steam engine, and the man who invented sardines and tomato sauce, and the man who invented the fatherland, etc., etc. And so you must take it as it is, or rather, as it was. Let's make a decision then. It is I who am the hare. It is I who tell the story. Chapter 2. Hopsa-daisy, I say, or whisper confidentially, for it'd be best if it just remained between the dead and me. Come see the last human being, the poor wretch. He arrived late yesterday, here on the last street of the last city. And when he fainted, I carried him up the final stretch into the apartment. It's sweet, lineal descendant of the original Pumsel suite, spat out into the great ocean by a woman of Nod. He has roamed every continent, crossed the freezing ocean, struggled in the burning desert. He's lived in the belly of a donkey and fought every war, just as every member of the 12,000-year-old Pumpselite race has done, going all the way back to the ruler of the valley and inventor of the world, Pumsel-Sweet. His muscles are clearly discernible through his threadbare jersey, and he strives to keep his eyes open. If he weren't in a strange abandoned apartment on the last street of the last city and weren't afraid of dying, no doubt he'd have yielded to exhaustion already. He blinks his eyes and gasps for air. For a second, he thinks he must be dead, but no. He can hear the sound of paws. It is I, the Great Hare, hopping about in the hallway. Hopsa-daisy, and boom! My fur shines whitely in the rustling darkness. Well, high above sweet, a singularity sails toward Earth across the universe, whose eternity and finality neither he nor anyone else will ever comprehend. Ain't it beautiful? He pulls the quilt farther up over his face and inhales the cold, seeping imperceptibly into the room from outside. See? Now he turns over and gives up. Oh, you exclaim, all of you who are already dead, for despite the wild beard and bristly hair, he looks like a child. We could gaze on him forever. Yet here I must firmly interrupt. Let me inform you instead of the facts. There exist on a global scale 655 million people of European ancestry, 478 million in Europe, 13 million in Asia, and 164 million in newly discovered lands. The barbarians leap from their burrows. But now look. Sweet opens his eyes. How adorable. He rolls onto his back and stares into space. Now he props himself up on an elbow, reaches for a pack of cigarettes on the nightstand, and taps one out between his fingers. The wretch. He's forgotten that there's no longer any fire. He thinks maybe he can go down to the corner store and buy something or other to calm his nerves. But he's also forgotten that the corner store is nothing but a concept from time, which no longer exists. And even time is nothing but a foolish fancy, any day fixe. Sweet sighs and glances around the room where nobody lives anymore, insofar as somebody no longer exists. And so it's surprising when a book catches his eye, jammed between the radiator and the wall, as there are no more books either. All that remains are reality and facts. He lies there a while, staring at the book, and we can rightly ask ourselves what the sight evokes in him. Perhaps the hope that it might rescue him from his weariness, that through the book he can somehow recapture who he was and the world he knew? Of course not. He just wants to kill time. With some difficulty, he coaxes the squeezed-together book from out behind the radiator. See? Now the last human turns to the first page and starts to tremble. He quivers like an aspen leaf as he opens to the first page of a book that doesn't exist and reads these words: "Would I ever find La Maga?"